thought?
Doing it right now, just waiting for him to finish logging on. All right, so spiritual thought for this week, and I don't know, let's see. So I guess real simple then with General Conference Weekend. Was there any key talks or topics that stood out to you guys?
There was a, I can't remember if it was Ballard or who it was, or maybe I'm confusing it with something else, but I heard one about a, they were comparing about Jesus on the Sea of Galilee, and there's the storm and everything, and he's sleeping, and everybody starts panicking, thinking the ship is going to sink. And they all run to him and say, "Hey, you gotta fix this. We're all gonna die. Why aren't you worried about this?" And then he compared it to the church and saying, we're all in this boat together. We're gonna be in turbulent storms, but we need to remember who is on the ship with us, and that's Jesus Christ, and that He, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world or whatever, but at His word, He can stop it all. He's in charge, and I thought that was a good metaphor. That was a good way to look at it. I never thought of it as us being along the boat with them, and but that is true. We need to remember He's in charge, and anytime He can just say enough when He thinks it's right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. I like that talk. There was a talk in a priesthood session that I really liked from Holland when he talked about the home teachers who came to the door right when the lady was fixing her plumbing and needed a bunch of help, and she thought it was a miracle. And then the home teachers are like, "Oh, sorry, we caught you at a bad time. We'll come back when you're ready to hear the message," kind of thing. So I thought it was kind of funny, and just we need to just always be looking for ways to serve others. So it's kind of to your point. So I like that a lot.
Very cool.
That's a good one.
Bye.
Hey, Miguel, thanks for joining. Hey, so we were just now talking about our spiritual thought, and so we were reflecting on General Conference this weekend. Was there any key talks or topics that stood out to you? Miguel, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any topics or specific talks that you liked about General Conference this weekend? Were you able to watch General Conference this weekend?
We can talk about the PCs and its evolution, and the final decision about the increase of doubling the force in order to increase the company. Yeah.
No,
So
Miguel, we're talking about General Conference. Did you get to watch General Conference this weekend?
Yeah, General Conference. Sorry. Yeah. So I liked the topic about the repentance. So we had to need repentance about some signs. So what's my favorite topic in this conference?
Okay. I'm trying to think of which one stood out to me. I felt like the Saturday morning session stood out to me a lot. For whatever reason, a popular trend I picked up on was just like the emphasis of prayers, making your prayers very personal, which for me is just always a reflection, because so often I find myself, going through the motions and repeat patterns of my prayers. And so for me, it was important just to, like, you know what? Am I taking the time to truly make this unique and personal? Am I appreciating the opportunity to talk to my Father in heaven? So I think that's just a trend I noticed on Saturday morning that, for me, I was able to really take away from it.
That's awesome.
All right. So let's go ahead. We'll start moving on. I'll read the questions and we'll start going. So far, we have learned to evaluate business models of startups. Today, we will examine the business model decisions of a startup in a mature industry. As a group, begin to discuss the following questions. Was the venture capitalist industry attractive for A16Z to enter in 2009. What was the competition like at the time? What was the typical fate of the new entrants in this industry? Why was this so? What were the trends of venture capitalist fund performance during this time?
So it's been a couple days since I did the reading, but from what it sounded like before that these venture capitalists came along, it was pretty unorganized. And oh my gosh, let me go back to my notes real quick. Someone else jump in.
Sure, I'll share some thoughts I had. I know if I read it correctly, then some of the things I noticed were like agreeing with what you said, Tyler. It was unorganized. Companies were all over the place. Some of them struggling. So it gave way for an opportunity for some companies to come in and really get some companies boosted and started. And then you reached a point where it was very dominated by certain companies, which made it difficult for new companies to come along because it's just a matter of like, well, these companies have this knowledge and experience and they cover this much ground, so it's just easier to go this way. However, what I also found interesting was that Ben and Mark, they both had experience working for some of these companies, and along with startups, and so they saw some of the weaknesses, and they saw an opportunity to help more companies. And so for that reason alone, I certainly think that it was attractive to A16Z, and for that reason, they have had the successes that they have.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely had a better foundation than most. I thought they had seen it from the other end and saw what was lacking from their own experience with VCs. Also, you look at Exhibit 5, that shows what the VCs in existence were in 92, 2002, and 2012. And in 92, it shoots up to, in 1992, it was at 358. In 2002, it's up at 1,089. And then by 2012, about the time 2009 happened, it dropped back down to 841. So there was definitely some shakeouts and stuff happening in the VC thing there. I also noticed on the other, I think it's the last exhibit, Exhibit 9, it's talking about how those nine firms there basically held 90% of the market. So you had a bunch of little guys struggling and trying to break in, and they were almost just like angels, but they weren't able to do it. And we see that these guys were able to get in. They got in 2009, and by 2012, they were well ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that it is very difficult for the beginning because you have to be a part of the 5 top in order to create revenue. So I explained that the implications were clear. To succeed in venture capital must be one of the top 5 firms. So it was difficult to enter in this business.
Uh-huh.
All right, so I think that answers it. We all pretty much agree that there were just top dogs that were dominating the market, making it difficult. Most new venture capitalists would fail.
Mm-hmm.
With all the entrenched incumbents and catch-22s, what silver lining did A16Z see? How did they plan to succeed in this difficult environment?
The silver lining I think they saw is that nobody else was doing it this way. They were going to be one of a kind. They looked to other industries. It talks about them looking to, CAA, the casting industry, and things like that. There's all these examples and how with that same model they were able to succeed and go above by building up their clients. And so I think they saw that as the silver lining that, hey, we're going to be different than everybody else. And we already see these other industries how this model has been a success.
Yeah, to that point, just like any successful business, you have to find what your niche is, what your target. If you just do what everyone else is doing and hoping for the best, then it's not going to work out. But they were different in the fact that they found their niche and they went with it. So I think that was their silver lining. They weren't trying to get into everything. They were just focusing on what they were good at, and it was successful for them.
Excellent. I noticed.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the one thing that caught my attention was, Mike, you pointed out too, which I think we all kind of have, they had the opportunity to see it from the other side. And so they were able to recognize areas of weakness that people didn't like or that turned away a lot of companies. So with that being said, like something that I really liked is, I'm sure are you guys familiar with like the movie or the show Shark Tank? You know, seeing how that side of it works, you know, how they negotiate. And what's interesting is it was news to me because I'm not familiar with it. The big business is way beyond my comprehension. But it was news to me to learn that the offers you hear on Shark Tank are really modest. In the real world, venture capitalists, they go for a lot more of the company's shares. And like they look to dominate, and you find that out from what they have to report on. They say, you know, a lot of them want to change the CEOs and put other guys in charge. And they said, that's not us. We believe that the founders have the knowledge and it's their baby. Let them take care of it. And so now if we believe in them, then that's going to be our step. And so that was an element I liked a lot. I know if I was trying to have a startup and I was looking for funding, that's certainly the kind of investor I would look towards. And then the other interesting thing was there was the percentages, like what a venture capitalist does, and that was the like the picking, the sourcing, and then the winning. And I like how they broke up the numbers. It's 10% picking, but then it's 90% sourcing. And rather than A16Z being prideful in who they are and what they have to offer, they ignored that. And they sought other people out, and they said, hey, we need your help. Come help these guys. We need your help. Come help these guys. To where they were putting together teams of people to like assist the companies they had invested in. And I just thought that was outstanding because you want them to succeed. Why not try to give them everything they need to succeed? So like you said, it was definitely a niche thing that they picked up on that I feel is proven that they're here to deliver to their customers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was surprised at how it seemed like they were just, you know, most VCs just basically throw money. I'm not surprised by that. That's what I've seen. They just basically throw money at you and they expect you to keep doing the same thing, performing results. And they're not really giving any input other than, well, we're going to get this CEO in here with an MBA and he's going to take charge because he knows how to run a company because he took a class at Harvard and, you know, got an A in it.
What did it say? Like 40% of those businesses fail?
Yeah.
I believe it's 40% fail, 40% like get some income, and only 20% actually turn out on top.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. I mean, if you're investing money in a company, you're basically becoming a partner in a company. So why aren't you doing everything you can? Why aren't you using your know-how, especially, you know, your prior success to build that company up?
Mm-hmm.
You know, It's a lot of times it seems like they just go in and tear things apart. I know Bain, that's what they used to do. Mitt Romney, that they'd go in, they'd tear the company all apart and reinsert their own little pieces in and then, you know, throw the dice and, you know, because they had the MBA grads in there that, you know, hey, it made money and they did all right. But, you know, I think that's a good status quo and a good way to get by. But I don't understand that. If you're, you know, I know me, I invest money, I buy equipment, whatever, I'm taking an active part to make sure that that is a success, it's being utilized to the fullest potential. You know, I'm a partner, I want him to succeed. And I'm going to do every bit of, you know, and I take that as my own responsibility.
Yep. Yep, definitely agree with that. It's kind of funny to your just another example when you talked about Mitt Romney, how he would put his own guys in. I just watched the show Hotel Hell with Gordon Ramsay. It's kind of funny. Every time he changes up these restaurants and hotels to make them nice, like even though he trusts in the people, he always puts in his own chefs and stuff, you know, because he doesn't want to just have that investment flop after spent on time. So it was just pretty much exactly like what you're saying.
Well, that's a good point. I know that other show called The Prophet, where that guy goes in and partners up. He never really puts his own people in. He tries to build up the people in there. If there's an employee, I know there was an employee. He was doing a pie shop, a key lime pie shop down in Florida Keys, and I remember he chewed out the employer for not paying the employee enough, and he gave that employee a raise right then because he pointed out that this employee was basically carrying this guy there, and he was using everything with him, building him up. He wasn't going out looking for other people to replace. He was just making the best of what he had and using the assets that were right there in front of him.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Why is A16Z specifically targeting first-time technical co-founders? How has the cost of tech startups impacted the VC industry? How has it impacted the need for technical co-founders to raise capital? Do these trends apply to other sectors such as life sciences or clean tech? Miguel, do you want to kick this one off?
The target market for this case was the CEOs because they didn't know how to sell or management part. So what's the principal target market for this project?
Well, what has changed for the IT industry in regards to startup costs? Did you catch that in the reading?
Oh, one thing that was changed was the open source. So many companies use this alternative in order. The boom about the internet was decreased. So was some changes that I see.
Okay. No, excellent. Perfect. That's kind of what I was fishing for, and you got it. So, how about anyone else? Any other thoughts on why they're targeting first-time technical co-founders?
Well, I'm having trouble understanding Miguel's microphone. It's coming in really choppy, so I don't know if.
Yeah.
Well, what I picked up on is he did point out the fact that it was the open source computer which significantly dropped the cost of starting a website, and that saved a lot of companies a lot of money early on because otherwise they were always trying to invest in web designers and so forth. So he recognized that was an industry that helped save funding, which decreased the high demand for funding, and so that was just the first thing he was able to touch on.
Okay. I also think the reason why they targeted first-time finders, they had said that if you've built if you've built a successful company, you're only going to do it once. And so that's why they didn't look to go towards people that had already done other companies and failed. They wanted the people that were building a company and stick with it and grow it and things like that. That was why they went for the first-time technical co-founders. Like you said, with the tech startups and the initial cost being changed, I think that was a great point. And then and it affecting how they did capital. But yeah, that's it.
Excellent, thanks.
Yep. Mike, what are your thoughts on it? Or not
Ben.
Mike, sorry, Ben. I'm sorry, man.
I was thinking on the side of two things. One, they came from the perspective of, again, that they like believing in the founder rather than trying to take over themselves. So they like the essence of a new first-time co-founder in an effort to put trust in them. There was that element. But then the other thing too was, and this kind of goes back to the idea of the old school business plan versus business model, and that was other companies were saying, hey, we want to see more growth. We want to see what you've accomplished. What's your history? What's your track record? Whereas they were saying, you know what? There's other great companies who also had problems. Everyone has problems in the beginning. And what they were looking for is, we want to see, hey, do you have potential? Do you have ideas? Are you willing to fight for this? And so they just said, hey, any company has the opportunity to grow and be successful. And so we're going to see, do you have the right people and the right idea? And if you do, let's expand on that. Let's make it grow. So I think that's why they were doing it, because in essence, it was an untapped market. Everyone else was pushing them aside and waiting for more experienced companies to come along to invest in them only, kind of like a sure deal effect, which in the end they were missing out on opportunities to grow. And this way, they were able to catch those opportunities before the rest of the crowd.
Yep.
Agree.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they were really looking for not so much the expertise in that area, but they're more so looking for people who had the fire, and people who had these startup ideas. They wanted to build them up rather than just replace them with new CEOs who had a lot of experience. But
Well, and that goes back to the 10% picking and 90% sourcing.
Yep.
If I make a bad pick, I can still possibly save it. I'll give you the tools. I'll give you the resources to help make this company a success. And if your company needs a pivot, we'll point it out to you. And so I think, again, that's the essence of what they have to offer. We're not worried about so much the pick as we have the product to help make you successful. Who are you? And are you going to be the right pick for us? So
I almost feel that, as former CEOs and founders themselves, they had a soft spot for the little guy. Kind of, they knew exactly what they needed, and they wanted them to succeed, and that's why they were going after these guys, because they had been there themselves and saw that, remember that, felt, whatever. They seemed, I think that was a big part of their success. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Agreed. What choices? Let's see one time. All right. What choices do technical founders have for financing that they didn't have a decade before?
That online source funding. What the heck do you call that stuff? There's like two big ones.
Yeah, you're talking about Kickstarter and Indiegogo and stuff like that.
Yeah. Those are amazing little programs. What they've been able to do. I mean, I know in my one class, I don't think it was this class. No, it was my other class. They were showing how one guy, he came up with a company that makes wedding rings out of carbon, and he ends up, he's asking for like 40,000 or something like that. And ends up making, getting like 400,000 or some crazy number. It's just, if you got a good idea, everybody's just willing to jump right onto it. I mean, it's ingenious. You get to sell your product before you even build it, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you brought that up. We actually just launched our Kickstarter a couple months ago. But yeah, just it was kind of funny because venture capitalists, like, you definitely need them today. But kind of just to Mike's point, there's so many different venues that you can go where people can just jump on your idea. I didn't even know what a venture capitalist was a few months ago before we even started doing these assignments. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent right now. But in fact, what is the question again? Can you repeat it? I'm sorry. You brought up Kickstarter. I'm like, hey, I just did that.
It was, what choices do technical founders have for financing that they didn't have a decade before?
Oh, I mean, just marketing in general. I mean, there's so many different venues you can do. You can do, not just social media, but I don't know. Kickstarter, Indiegogo.
I think that was crowdfunding, no?
What was that?
What's that?
So I think that crowdfunding, it's online funding.
Yeah, like Kickstarter, Indiegogo.
I think that was another alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Venture capitalist firms compete on their ability to source, pick, and win. How does A16Z's business model influence these abilities compared to other venture capitalist firms? Which I kind of think we've talked about. Think of source as the ability to get founders to come into the door seeking money. How does the way A16Z treats its founders differ from the way traditional venture capitalist treats them? Will this increase, decrease, or have no effect on the number of potential deals A16Z's compared to the competition?
Has a huge effect because they value the little guy. They value his success, kind of like what we were just talking about. They're willing to point him in the right direction, but ultimately let them have control. What's the direction of the company? It's had huge success for them.
Awesome. That answers the next question as well. How will this change if A16Z begins to fire CEOs because they are not performing well? Will this increase, decrease, or have no effect on the number of potential deals at A16Z compared to the competition?
With that, I think every case is different. I mean, yes, you really value the underdog and the guy who has the fire, like we've been talking about. But there's some people who really aren't suited for the job. You know what I'm saying? Who maybe have all like the desire, but just make all the wrong choices, and I don't know, maybe bring other people down. So, I mean, I just personally think every single investment is different. Every company you invest in is different. So, but if they start firing CEOs, maybe it'll keep these entrepreneurs. Maybe it'll keep them more accountable. Honest. Yeah. Maybe more desire to work even harder. Knowing that it could happen, they could get fired. I don't know.
I don't know if it's so much that though. I think, if I understand it correctly, the purpose of them not firing CEOs is because they put trust into them to run their own business. Most other venture capitalists, they would just fire them from the get-go because, hey, you know what? You're just an idea guy, but you're not an executioner. So we're not going to keep you on board. You're gone. We're going to put someone else in place. And that's where they were saying their different approaches, saying, no, we're not here to fire you. We're here to help you. Here's the tools we'll put in your place. So, like, I think that gives them a competitive advantage because now the small guy is not going to be threatened by venture capitalists. They're going to say, hey, you know what? This team is going to believe in me because I believe in my project, and I think they're going to help me. So that was my take on it.
Yeah, I think it's part of the vetting process. They're not just buying into the idea when they're going and investing in these companies. They're also buying into the founder. They're very interested in the founder and all that. So they're evaluating what kind of a CEO they're going to be and all that stuff before they ever make that decision. So they're betting on these guys if they're going to be the CEOs. However, I do think that now and then they are going to have to fire somebody. I mean, it's a lot of these tech guys are young guys. And things happen in life that can affect them. They get addicted to alcohol, they get addicted to drugs, be going through divorce, and it's going to affect their game. And A16Z has every right to remove these guys if they need to. But I don't think it's something that's going to be large scale unless they did a full pivot in their own business model. They're not going to be firing every CEO. It's just going to be here and there it's going to be a rare occurrence. The way it looks to me, the way they've built everything, and with the success of it, I don't see them pivoting off of that plan. But I guarantee they're going to replace CEOs. I guarantee they already have. It's just the nature of the beast. You'll get
Right.
It might come down to a person guy might have been a smooth talker, and then you found out that he was cooking the books, or just totally inept.
Sure.
It happens. But he had a great idea, and you can save it and pull it out. So.
Yep. Going along with that, I mean, back to the Shark Tank. I mean, there's been quite a few deals that they've made, where they invest in not just the company but the individual. And after they made the deal, to Mike's point, they had cooked the books, and then they've literally just completely pulled out of the deal. Just stuff like that. I mean, but as for this company, their thing is they're not looking to fire CEO. I mean, they've made that very clear. But like, if it came down to it, I'm sure it would be for a valid reason. It's not just to fire him for
Sure.
So,
All right.
Yeah.
This is something really cool, and I think this plays an important role in our decision making, and that is, how does the operating team help make these decisions? And does it give them an advantage?
What do they mean by the operating team there?
I believe it's referring to the 6 general partners,
Okay.
which, if I read it correctly, I think this has a huge impact because each of the 6 has unique, similar yet unique experience, particularly in the IT department, and as a CEO founder. And because of that, they know just like Ben and Mart, they know what it's like to be on the other end. They know what they're looking for, and they also know what it's like to be an entrepreneur in the regards of they know how to analyze risks. They know how to analyze products. Do they have a following? So they know what to look for from personal experience, and once again, because it's in the target market of IT.
Yeah, they're also out to help each other, which is very different. It's more of a team, and like
Yep.
you said, they all have their own assets, and they can pull off the different strengths and things. So
Right.
I think just doing that and working together, instead of one great mind, you got 6 great minds working together and able to balance and evaluate. And you got an expert in pretty much everything in there. I think it really, really skews the game in their favor by doing it that way. It mentions how the other ones, some of the other firms, that because it's almost like salesmanship in your territory, you can't go and leak what you're doing with this guy because the other guy might steal your client, or he's trying to get the bonus or something, so he's going to steer you with wrong information because he wants to be the number one recruiter instead of you, and that's going to affect his numbers and his bonus.
Right. That was a good point to add in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I agree with you guys.
Okay.
Pretty much. Yep, everything you guys said. Question.
Yep.
How many more questions do we have on here? Sorry.
Essentially one more. This is going to be the final little part.
Okay. Sorry.
Yep. That's okay. No. Reasonable question. All right. Put yourself in the shoes of Andreessen and Horowitz. You must decide whether or not to seek to double your assets under management. Vote as a group. The decision must be unanimous. Consider the following as you decide. How many portfolio companies can one general partner reasonably support? Are there any economies of scale in this business? Will you have to hire more operating team people? If so, will the partners actually make more money for doubling their assets, or will all the additional profits go to hire more people? Does anybody want to kick off? I'm happy to otherwise.
I think that they only were focused on the technical companies. I think that they maybe could change in another sector. And about the economies of the scale, the article explained that it would be a good idea to move to China. But I think that it's riskier than only stay in USA. I think that probably it could be more problems, language, laws, and I don't know, things like that. And
I agree with you on that.
of course, yeah,
We were agreeing with you.
they have to. Yeah, they have double hire more people and increase the assets. So I think that maybe in the future can be international or company international, but in this time, I suggest that only change the sector, but working only in USA.
Okay. How about you, Michael?
I think, let me bring it back over. As far as it says how many portfolio companies can one partner really support, I never really saw any data that said how many they were supporting currently. So, I don't know how to answer that question and assess that, oh, yeah, they can each take on, twice as much. It gives you the number 1.7 times. I don't know how you can correctly assess that. They just don't seem to give me enough data for me to make that judgment. However, I do know that they built this company with the plan to make it scalable, the way they set it up. But I'm unclear whether or not it required them to add more partners or not, or if they would be able to do it with all the non-general partners. But it's definitely something that, to me, it looks like it's a well put together system that can be duplicated and all that. They have the networks. The culture is there to work together, and everything's built. Up till now, they've gotten to this point while they were still building things. At this point, even though they don't have the long track record, the statistics show that the numbers, the books show that it is progressing and profitable, successful. So, in my opinion, since that was the original intent, was to make it scalable and all that, they should grow. There's businesses that are larger than them, so they're not going into unknown territory as far as how large should we go. And they're growing faster than those other companies did. They're charging at the high side of everybody, and they're still getting business. So obviously there's value there to the clients. And then the last question, they are going to need to hire more people, obviously, just to keep up and to service everybody profitable. Once again, whether they need to make more general partners, I don't know. I don't see a problem with making more general partners. There's a point where you get greedy, and why do you want to increase that load? The original partners, Andreessen and Horowitz, it says that they make a percentage off the total, and then the other partners are divided up in smaller percentages. So as Andreessen and Horowitz, if I'm the boss, I'm going to say, yeah, let's add some more general partners. If we're going to increase our revenue by 1.7 and our profits, then yeah, we can afford to hire a few more partners to help out. And there's got to be other people you can add to your, other qualified individuals that can be added and help to even strengthen that network and that team.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that they definitely get out more people. I think at the beginning, when you're first starting, that's when you can't really just take off and go crazy, But they've actually established a solid foundation, and they found what their niche is. They found what's working for them. So I think if I think they're able to bring on more people now, a much more accelerated pace than before. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are, Ben.
All right. So I'm on the contrary. And the reason being, I'm a leader, but I'm not a risk taker, if that makes sense. I like to play it safe as I can. And so here's what I'm looking at. They started this company based on a market that they were familiar with and recognized. And so for that, they learned how to capitalize on that market. Their team is consisted of IT specialists, and that's what allows them to be able to make the crucial judgments as to picking winners and providing them with the sources they need. Again, because it's an environment that they are all familiar with. So if they go into two things, one, if they go into other countries, then no matter what, you have to have more people, because you're not going to know how the Chinese markets work. You're not going to know the people in New York. You're going to need people who are familiar with those demographics to know, hey, how do we handle these companies? How do we handle these people? And so for that is okay, you need more people. Are they going to have the same mentality as you? Obviously, you're going to hire. They talked about how their rules for finding a general partner were simple, but it wasn't easy, meaning not very many people met these high requirements that they had. So because of that, I don't know if you're going to be able to find the right team members. And the team that you offer, like what makes you attractive to young entrepreneurs and startups is because of how personal and how intimate you can make that training and helping and so forth. So that's why for demographics, I wouldn't say go outside Silicon Valley. So then the other question was, do you consider going into other fields such as the biotech and the clean tech and so forth? And my suggestion here is same idea. You do so well now because you are focused on an industry you guys are knowledgeable in and have experience in. Because of your lack of knowledge in biotech and the other fields, you're going to need to hire more people in those areas. And the question is, are you going to find the right team members? Are you going to see the opportunities for growth like you do? Because right now we see this huge booming computer age. Does that same opportunity for growth exist in other fields? And is that something you want to risk getting into? So those are all just concerns. Whereas I'm like, you know what? You seem to be doing well. You came into this industry with an effort to help your customers. You saw an opportunity to make a little money while helping others. That was great, and you've done that. Right now, now they're asking questions of, can we do more? Whereas on the contrary, they don't have other customers in mind right now. They don't have entrepreneurs in China saying, hey, you're doing great over there. Can you come help us here? Or same in New York. They don't show people from biotech saying, hey, would you be interested in coming to another field? No, they're bringing these questions to themselves, which this, to me, shows the energy of greed as opposed to their original starting of helping. And that's why I feel like they're treading water here, like, oh, hey, do we try to go bigger than we can? I think, for that reason, I think they should just stay where they're at, stay in the IT department in Silicon Valley, and continue to grow there. I think that what they have to offer is so unique and special, it's drawn a lot of attention and will continue to draw more attention. I think they can continue to grow and potentially double their assets right where they're at. Like that says, you need 10 years to really reflect on your investments to see the returns. Maybe if those numbers come back, you might get more interest down the road. But I think right now, I'd keep going this direction they're going. So that was my take on what I picked up from the case.
Okay. I'm trying to find it, but it did say that in surveys and all that stuff, they did hear there was areas in New York that we wanted to do business with them and stuff like that. So that's what made me lean to thinking about spreading out and maybe doing other offices. I would not do the international. I think international's a mistake most of the time. I think like you said, greed comes in when you go internationally. You're going into other legal aspects, creating a whole other can of worms, patent problems, just everything. There's so many problems when you go overseas. And I like America, so let's make America great. To steal that from somebody else, let's make America great. And then as far as I did like doing the medical stuff. I've been looking a lot at medical technology and things like that. And, there's so much growth in medical. There's so much going on right now. It's amazing. And I think that they could find, like you said, they had trouble finding people in tech. But if they're talking about expanding and growing general partners, there's some amazing people in the medical divisions out there, some amazing medical startups, guys that you could bring on to, like I said, they just come up with some great stuff and been very successful. I would do that. Green technology, the whole scam of green technology is it only succeeds if the government passes a law. Solar panels, you got to have them subsidized by the government. Electric cars, which I like, I think they're cool, but you know what? The government has to subsidize those. They have to artificially inflate, gas prices with taxes to make it more expensive, or whatever other little things they do. They have to get ethanol. We've had to go and subsidize the heck out of that industry. Green technology, clean technology it's based on the government. So you're going to be waiting on laws and things and hoping that politicians do it in your favor. So those two, that and going foreign, are off the table. But I think New York, you could definitely find stuff in New York. Boston, I I've realized that Boston has a very large, almost a Silicon Valley kind of thing to it too, where they're creating a lot of technology and things. I think they could move out and do a presence there and be successful. And then the whole other thing I see with it is you read that Sequoia Capital and New Enterprise Associates, there's articles in here where they're commenting. They've taken notice of Andreessen Horowitz, and they're even adopting some of their practices. They're scared because they see it coming in on their business model. And if you look at Sequoia Capital on Exhibit 9, they're managing 5.6, and they're only investing. They're at 5.6 billion, and they're only in Silicon Valley. And I would imagine that if you keep going, you're going to steal a lot of market share from them just in Silicon Valley, just from Sequoia Capital and New Enterprise. I mean, those are both average. Those are both managing 5 million apiece. You know, you could take another. If you're doing 2.7 million, is what it says here. You're only looking to grab another 2 billion. You can pull 1 billion out of, steal 1 billion from New Enterprise and 1 billion from Sequoia, and you'd be at your goal without ever moving off the reservation. So I'd be cautious. I agree with you on caution, but I think it's proven, and I think it's definitely helping in an asset to other investors, to founders and other companies. I mean, I know if I was looking for a company, I'd like to work with these guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it just
So then
comes-
here's a question. So if you go to New York, do you stay in IT or do you go into other fields?
Well,
I think anywhere I go domestically, at first I'm going to stay with. My initial approach is to stay with IT because that's what you know.
Okay.
But at the meantime, I'd still be hiring people that specialize, that have been successful in, in bio and things like that. And then if something comes up and, I might have an IT background, but this just looks really good. I like the team. The idea is amazing. That idea that the guys up in Oregon have recently, where they're basically, not to be crude, but it's a tampon that you shove into a bullet hole and it expands and stops the bleeding in the field. Mm-hmm. And everybody's jumping all over those guys. It was a simple solution. It's like a $2 product and they're selling it to the military for hundreds of dollars. If I saw that, I don't care what my background is, I would have jumped on that idea. So,
yeah.
If I see one of those, I know business, I know IT, but in the end, you still know business. I would look at that, but I would be a lot more cautious in the beginning.
I think what is like their overall objective, that what they're trying to accomplish, it's in their mission statement. So
that's a good point.
I get both points. I do. I would say probably just for sake of the argument, I'd probably put my vote towards kind of playing it safe, sticking with what you're good at. And they found their niche. So, and that doesn't mean that they can't grow. I mean, they'll definitely grow, but as for like expanding overseas and whatnot, I would just say stick with what they know, stick with what they're good at. That would be my vote. So
I'd vote with you on that. I would throw out the biomedical stuff. I would throw out that. I agree with you. Stay with what you know. There's plenty of money in Silicon Valley, apparently.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think, Miguel?
So, in order to expand the company, I suggest that they explore another fields like biotech or clean tech, because the principal thought that was that inspiring this company was help other people. So, and those fields are success. So I think that they should try to expand the company and to explore these fields.
Okay, so why do you think they should expand? Because right now we're saying that we should at least play it safe for now. Wait till things see if it kind of plateaus in Silicon Valley before expanding. That's what we're agreeing to. But you're saying we should try other fields. Why do you think we should try other fields?
Yeah, because profits can be increased, and Silicon Valley is another field that they know very well. So they should expand when they successful that they had in Silicon Valley with another field, biotech, that is it's similar that technology, or they continue work with technology. So there are the statistics about this field is very growing, field that is growing. So I feel that they, if they explore this field, they will be successful too. So that's my point of view.
Okay. Well, on the contrary, though, I don't think that they're very similar. I think business is business. I think concepts of business are the same. Michael, you kind of touched on that with recognizing opportunities in business, but I don't think the knowledge in the field is very similar. You know, you're talking about products, like physical products as opposed to online products. And I think you're also referring to a very fast-growing community society. Everything's going online, going digital, and everyone's different, has different approaches. So there's all sorts of new products online that attract customers. If it's shopping, if it's games, if it's music or streaming or finances, you know, there's lots of different revenues to try and attack all that. Whereas I think the biotech, that's going to be more product oriented rather than online, trying to tap a larger market. So I think that's actually going to be more challenging unless you're knowledgeable in the field, which I don't think any of these guys are, unless you found that somewhere else in the reading.
Well, are they necessarily just doing online? I mean, they're in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley's computer chips, microchips, electric cars. I mean, you know, if we're talking Silicon Valley, you're talking Elon Musk, and he's building electric cars. So
right.
It's the same concepts. I mean, technology is a very broad game.
I mean, they could be doing more chips and stuff.
What's that?
I said they could be doing more like chips and that kind of stuff. Just from what I picked up on, all the majority of the examples I saw that I'm familiar with, they were all websites. Websites and internet sources. That's everything I saw from what the companies that they listed as helping them. I mean, like you said, I easily see where there's an opportunity to get into the chips and stuff like that, because there's going to be like an engineering department. I didn't see that in the examples of companies that they were associated with and helping.
I agree, but they are a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley, so I think it's going to have to be a given that they are going to be doing products. It's not just going to be online. So I don't know. I think you know, they list the other entrepreneurs, why they prefer CEOs. They're listing computer manufacturers, Hewlett Packard, IBM, things like that. They have an understanding, in my view, that they understand product. And at the end, whether it's Oreo cookies or whatever, you know, from the business point, from the CEO, from the classes we take in college that we all take together.
Yep.
It's the same formula applied to everything across the board. So that's why I'm in favor of it. I mean, you're a business, you want to grow. I am cautious in the fact that, you know, I look at Krispy Kreme and I've seen them go bankrupt twice because they get into an area that it explodes and they use up these inflated numbers and then it comes crashing again. But I don't see that with this company. I see their competition running scared, and I see plenty of market value and market share out there in Silicon Valley. And, you know, a lot of the people that are on this team aren't even from Silicon Valley. It's from all over the nation. I mean, you got the one lady who's from Germany, and her expertise was in marketing, had nothing to do with technology. Another guy that's HR had nothing to do with technology. So they're already grabbing outside people and bringing them in. So I think they've contracted into what was special to the founders, but I think there's definitely capacity to expand out. And I agree, start in Silicon Valley. I think that's a good place to push, keep building your fund there. But as the opportunities present themselves, I wouldn't swat them away.
Okay, so then the question comes back to this and foremost is, will the partners actually make more money for doubling their assets, or will all the additional profits go to hire more people?
Did anybody do the spreadsheet?
I did not.
Mm-mm.
I didn't know how to calculate the numbers.
I'm not saying I did either. I messed around with it, and I was working on that right before we got on. And at a 1.7, let's see here, where are we at? Based on, by growing at 1.7 and just assuming that they're paying, their cost per employee is $200,000. I figure paying your employees minimum $100,000, and by the time you add in your workers' comp, liability, insurances, your rents, other expenses, you're probably running about $200,000 per employee. And with the current of 74 employees, times it by 1.7, that's giving you 126 employees. So it's giving you total expenses of $25.2 million. Anyways, going as opposed to 14 million. But with the capital gain at 3% annually, they are making 1.2 billion. If they're at the 2.5% capital gain, they're at 1.21 billion with 2.5%. At 3%, they're at 1.23 billion. Is their projected profit. So there's plenty of fluff in there.
Okay, but then the question is, if you're going into different fields or different locations, do you continue to run the business yourself, or do you hire more general partners, which is another factor to put into the costs?
I think they're going to need to add more general partners. And to me right now, it doesn't even sound like they're that firm with the 6 that they got. Like if they found somebody, if they found somebody that's qualified, they'd probably, think hard about it, but they would probably add them in.
Okay. Which I agree. I see that trend as well. But that's where it's just like, okay, so if they make an effort to double their assets, would it be worth it? Depending on the direction they choose to go, such as a different field or a different location, would it be worth it?
I think so, if they can control the cost. And right now I think that they can.
Okay.
What do you think? Do you think
Again, I'm leery about the partner situation. I don't know if they have the right people in place to know the markets well enough to make the decisions involved with who to partner with. Like, if you have all the people associated with medical, you now need more sources that know medical. So like if I go to help someone in the biotech and they say, hey, I've got this product. Okay, my IT guys are not the ones to talk to. I need a new team of people to come and talk to you to help you promote and sell your product and get you more buyers. So that's where I'm like, if you go into another field or if you go to another place, if you're in New York, all my guys are here. Do I do Skype and try to Skype with you? Or do I fly people out to meet with you there? Or do I have you come here so to meet and sit down and go over numbers and plans? Do I set up a whole new team in New York? And that's where it's coming down to. Those are going to be additional costs involved, time and everything, trying to get the people in place. And that's where it's like, okay, well, is that something worth doing? Is it worth, will doubling our assets pay off? And that's where I don't think so. I think it'd be better to maybe hire 2 or 3 more people here and double our assets, and we'd be making more money here doing the same thing, as opposed to probably doubling our team to double our assets, and we're just making the same amount of money, the same per person sort of thing.
Well, in this case, they're assuming we're going to double our team no matter what, whether we're doubling them here in Silicon Valley or we're doubling them other places. That cost is going to go up. the question is,
Right.
is it going to be, is the cost going to be out of scale? I mean, if I make $1 billion and I'm going to go double everything, and now I'm going to make $2 billion because I doubled my employees and I doubled my revenue and everything follows the same formulas, that's great. I made $2 billion. However, if I'm making $1 billion and it's a little bit off of efficiency, but instead of making $1 billion, I only made $1.7 billion by doubling it, I'm still glad as heck I made an extra $700 million. You know?
Right.
I don't call that a loss. So I think they're highly profitable. There's a lot of wiggle room there. You know, I agree with you on caution. I would definitely be cautious. And who's just, you know, they've already proven that they grow at a very fast pace. I'm almost kind of nervous at how fast they have grown. But, you know, I haven't experienced that. And they, you know, it seems to be working, so they're doing well.
Okay. So that's where we have to decide as a team. Do they double their assets? And if so, what direction do they go in? My first instinct is to say not to double your assets. That's my first opinion.
So you say freeze growth freeze the growth right where it's at right now?
Yes. Well, I'm saying avoid rapid growth. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm agreeing with that, to avoid the rapid growth.
So
My
over how
bias.
many years would you want to double then? If you're taking it from rapid, I mean, everything doubles at 3%, you still double every 30 years. What would you think would be a good growth rate to double?
Well, they're trying to double in 2 years. That's their projected plan. They said they want to double in 2 years. I think that's crazy.
I didn't see where it said that. I know in the numbers he gave us, it said that it takes them 3.5 years to do an investment cycle, and that's $1.5 billion per investment cycle. So that'd be over 7 years to double.
Here, I'll look it up right now.
I think that they should double their assets because they has a successful structure model. So they have a high background. So I think that they can be okay if they double their assets.
I'm not seeing it. It says I see New Enterprise Associates is managing $13 billion of committed capital, which is funny because they're in DC, China, and India, so they're really diversified. Like I said, I don't like India. I don't like going out of the nations at all, out of country at all. I agree with everybody on that one.
Dang it. I'm trying to think where I read that at now. I'm trying to find it.
It took them 4 years to get where they're at
Yes.
in 2012. Yeah, I'm not seeing the 2 year thing. The numbers that they gave us to calculate put it at 7 years to double it. So if this is 2012, that would put them at 2019 to double in it. Yeah, if it was over 2 years, I'd be totally against it. I think that's reckless.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misread it. It says right here, it says the co-founders had asked, this is on the very first page, under the very first heading. It says the co-founders asked whether A16Z should double its assets under management over the next few years. I thought it said 2.
Okay.
And so it just said, would this require doubling the number of GPs and the size of 16's operating team? If a bigger firm, would it be possible to sustain high-quality communication between team members, which are crucial to the network's model success? Finally, if A16 doubled its assets under management, could it continue to invest solely in Silicon Valley-based information, or could it have to diversify? And that's where I think if they, in order to keep costs down, I think if they stay where they're at, they could potentially do it and not need to hire as many GPs. I think if they grow in other markets and in other areas, they would have to add more GPs, which is not going to be as profitable for them. I think it'd be 1 for 1.
Now, aren't their JPs paid a flat fee, though? I didn't think their GPs got a – it wasn't like you were dividing up a percentage. They were paid a flat fee.
They
So
are
just
paid a
because you go up doesn't mean it necessarily increase their cost. You're basically making them work harder for more money.
Yes, and that's the question. Do we break even? Like, in the sense of we're still getting paid the same, or do we just grow with the same numbers we have now? That's kind of where they're trying to establish.
Right, but I'm saying if your general partners are getting a flat fee, theirs is a negotiated flat fee that they're getting, is what I thought I read. They weren't a percentage. So you're not diluting that percentage you're not diluting a percentage by adding more partners. It's a flat fee. So what you're basically saying is you're making $200,000. You made $200,000 this year to go and manage this many companies. Now I want you to double that next year, but I'm not going to raise your fees. You know, your costs are going to go up no matter what if you're raising it. Now you can either diversify and get more guys in there, or you're going to need to pay your current partners more.
Let's see where it says. On page 13, I'm looking at a quote. It's right in the middle of the page.
You have to double our committed capital.
The number of potential, let's see, where was it? I mean, that talks about the discussion thing again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think of, like, the first sentence there is, like, if we double our committed capital, would we need to double our number of general partners? How about the size of our operating team? And I think if they have to double everything, then they're not accomplishing the goal that they're wanting. That's my opinion. I think they're trying to say, hey, if we grow without having, like, can we double our assets without doubling our team? Then it's worth it. And that's where I think the question is, I mean, I don't know, do you see that the same way?
I think that's a lot of thinking, because you're basically saying that we're going to double our process, but we're going to double our revenue, but it's not going to cost us anything. If you're keeping the same team, you're keeping the same partners, you're saying it's not going to cost us anything more to do it. So, I mean, that's a no-brainer. Then, yeah, you do it. But that's impossible. It's never that way.
Okay, no, I realize that. But, again, the goal is to double. So right. Can they do that? And how do they do it to be worth it? And that's where the options are. Do they diversify or do they not diversify?
I don't think they have to diversify up front. I think it's a strategy they need to look at down the road. But, you know, right now you have, like I said, Sequoia Capital and these others. There's billions of dollars just in Silicon Valley that it looks like they're in line to take business share from them. So
okay, perfect. See, and I'm on board with you there. So I'm saying stay solely in Silicon Valley in the IT department for now. I think the growth is there. And then maybe, like you said, obviously we're not going to turn down opportunities that are like the golden eggs down the road. But I think to continue down the road they're going, I think Silicon Valley IT department is the way to go.
I can agree with you on that. I can agree with you on that. I mean, the partners are, the other companies are running scared. They're trying to adapt the business model. These guys are raising money left and right just within Silicon Valley. I'd
Yeah.
say go ahead and announce you're going to go ahead and double. Do what you can there. And if you start coming up short, and meanwhile you've found other partners to bring on, you know, as growth goes and the numbers are in line, then yeah, you expand. But in their initial steps, I think, I mean, obviously there's still plenty of growth in Silicon Valley, and I would say, yeah, move forward with doubling. Go ahead and double your staff and see where you're at with general partners if you need to, or if you can be creative in how you manage the general partners over the non-partners, and if you can increase that ratio or not.
Okay. I know, Tyler, you're with that assumption. Miguel, how do you feel about that? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with double of number the general partners and assets.
Okay.
Sweet. We all agree.
All right, guys. I think that'll do it then for now. I'll go ahead and send this link to everybody. You guys can for your discussion posts.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. You guys have a good night, and we'll
See you
see
later.
you all.
Yep.
Yeah.